Change is coming, whether you like it or not.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network in the world. So glad that you're here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making this your everyday listen. If you're an everydayer, Supercast, Locked On Bulldogs, LockedOnBulldogs.supercast.com. Gosh, words are hard sometimes. If you're an everydayer, LockedOnBulldogs.supercast.com. Appreciate you being a part of the club. That's where you can go to get ad-free episodes. It's where you can go to get bonus content, exclusive content, newsletter, text thread, all that. Either way, happy that you're here. Happy to have you a part of the journey. Today, we're going to talk about a couple different things. So I want to start, though, with a big picture college football conversation. And I want to talk about specifically why it's good news for Georgia. And that is college football reform. Now, this is obviously coming on the heels of Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss and judges and all of this. And regardless of what you think about the Trinidad Chambliss situation, regardless of what you think the role of judges should be, the legal system should be as it relates to our favorite sport, college football, regardless of your opinions on any of that, where you stand on any of that, here's what I can tell you definitively if we just want to deal in facts. The facts are that this current system of college football is broken. There has been widespread change, and the regulation has not in any way, shape, or form caught up to the change, and therefore we're operating in a broken system. We're operating in a system where there's coaches leaving their jobs before their teams play in college football playoff games because they have to go take their new jobs because the recruiting cycle has already started for the following year, and the portal window is going to open and signing day is going to happen. And their new employer said, you have to be here on this date or you can't have the job. And so college football is actively pointing the gun at its own foot and shooting itself repeatedly in the foot, just based on the systems that they have in place. This current system is not sustainable. It's not a long-term system. It's not going to work to keep college football going. And so you could say anything you want about, like, well, I like the way it used to be. I don't like the new system. Well, that's fine. This system won't work. You could say anything you want about, like, oh, this is better than the previous system. Players are getting paid and players are moving around. It's more exciting. It's more dynamic. There's more parity in college football. Indiana's good. Ole Miss is good. These are garbage programs. And now all of a sudden they're relevant in college football. This is good for the sport. Okay, great. This current system still isn't going to work long term. So regardless of where you stand on the issue, again, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about whether or not Trinidad Chambliss should be granted a 14th year of eligibility. We're not talking about whether or not playing at JUCO counts as playing college football. We're not even necessarily talking about whether a guy in Charles Bediako that played 3 years in the G League and then dropped out and tried to come back and play college basketball for Alabama. We're not talking about whether or not that should be allowed. What we are saying is that this system will not work. Coaches are leaving college football en masse for the NFL. And they will continue to do that. And the product will continue to get worse and worse until regulations come. So regulations are coming. There will be a structure in place. I don't think it'll be the NCAA. It might be. It might not be. Who knows? There will be a structure put into place. There will be rules. There will be salary caps. There will be all of these things that will be in place and will be regulated. And you will begin to see the big schools and the small schools drift apart in college football. That is inevitable at some point. And it's because we have moved to such a place that now this is no longer sustainable. We can't turn the train around and go backwards. That's not going to happen. And the place that we're in currently is not a sustainable system. So the only way college football, as we know it, doesn't dissolve completely is if reform and change comes. Now, the reason that that's good news, if you're a Georgia fan, which you might say, this is not good news because I'm a traditionalist and I've been a Georgia fan since 1924 and I love all of the old ways and all of the old things. That's fine. The reason that this is good news is you, Georgia fan, have the only coach in college football left who has proven he can win in the old system and has proven he can win in the new system. You have the best and most adaptable coach in college football in Kirby Smart. What he's doing with NIL right now, we talked about this earlier in the week. We talked about how other schools have openly said, if you want a player from Georgia, you have to be willing to pay them 2 to 3 times as much as Georgia is paying them. Meaning Kirby Smart is owning the NIL space. He is owning that space. And when there is a salary cap, think about what that means. Think about what it means when there's a salary cap. If other schools are right now currently saying, if I want a Georgia player, I got to pay it 2 to 3 more times. Well, when there's a salary cap, Lane Kiffin can't spend all of the money that Lane Kiffin wants to spend. And so is he going to be able to come get Georgia players? Is he going to be able to poach players away from Kirby Smart? Well, if he overpays 2 to 3 times the value of a player just because he wants them from Georgia, that's going to hamstring the entire rest of his roster. That's going to put him in a really bad way managing the rest of the positions on his team. And so what is that going to mean? It's going to mean more players are going to stay at Georgia because other teams are not going to be able to afford to hire them. I'll tell you what else it's going to mean. It's going to mean that Georgia is going to be able to sign more elite players than any other program in college football. If there's a salary cap, and if other coaches are saying to me, I have to pay 2 to 3 times what Georgia pays, what does that mean? It means Georgia has 2 to 3 times the overall talent on their roster, as long as they evaluate that talent well, which Kirby Smart has proven himself to be an elite evaluator of talent. Georgia's going to have more money to spend. Why? Because they're getting everybody on sale. They're getting everybody at a discount. They're getting everybody at a reduced rate. If Florida wants to pay somebody to come play for them, they got to pay more. But if Georgia wants that same player, people want to come play for Kirby Smart. Why? Because he puts them in the NFL, because he develops them, because he makes their biggest dreams come true. Not just their, I want to buy a Ferrari right now dreams, but he makes all of the big dreams at the end of the road come true for more players, more consistently over time. And listen, you sit down with a player who's got his head on his shoulders, and that's always going to win the day in the end. So it's good news for Georgia because Georgia's going to get more good players than any other team. We'll come back in just a minute. I'll tell you why else this is good news for Georgia. But first, this.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Dawn Staley and South Carolina remain on top of the SEC standings after handing Tennessee their worst defeat in program history with a final score of 93-40. In the 43-point win, South Carolina shot 69% from the field. Tessa Johnson had a perfect shooting night, scoring 24 points, shooting 4 for 4 from the floor, including 2 threes, and made all 4 of her free throws. And UCLA remains undefeated in Big Ten play, topping Michigan 69-66 as Player of the Year contender Lauren Betts put up a double-double, scoring 16 points, collecting 16 rebounds, and adding 5 assists and 3 blocks. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
So reform is coming to college football. It's inevitable at this point. I don't know when it's going to come. I don't know how many stages it's going to come in. But look, you just look around. Look around the landscape. Again, I mentioned the Bediako situation. It's a college basketball situation, but look at what's happening in college basketball. Look at what's happening in college football. The amount of money that is coming in, the amount of revenue that is coming in, the powers that be, who are the ones making all the money off of this, by the way, are highly motivated to keep the product on the field, the quality of that product high, right? Because if nobody's tuning in, if nobody's interested, then nobody's making any money. So in order to do that, they are going to have to restore some equity and some fairness, some balance to this sport. They're going to have to shorten the recruiting cycle. They're going to have to limit the windows of transfers. They're going to have to create a free agency, essentially, which is what already exists, but with no rules whatsoever. They're going to have to create a free agency, essentially, and they are going to have to regulate salaries and player compensation. And when they do that, that's going to benefit Georgia. It's going to benefit Georgia, I already mentioned, because of the culture that Georgia has, which is worth 2 to 3 times whatever your NIL compensation is. That's what we've been told. That's the reality that's in place right now. Players are willing to take 33% of what they could make elsewhere in order to come play for Georgia. That is a staggering number. And so the fact that that's true tells you that when a salary cap is in place, Georgia automatically leaps to the forefront of college football. So that alone is great news for Georgia. But it's not just going to be salary cap. It's going to be recruiting regulations. When recruiting gets back to more limited windows, that will be a regression towards what used to be, right? So over time, what recruiting has done is it has opened and opened and opened. And we're still going to have the transfer portal. We're still going to have all of that. I'm not saying any of that is going to go backwards. We're still going to have it. But right now, the lack of regulation on the transfer portal, the lack of the how long and how wide and how frequent the windows are that players are allowed to transfer, what it does is it allows for an excessive amount of tampering, which you have rampant in all of college football, and B, it really allows for lesser recruiters to win with quantity. Does that make sense? Because if you are not as an elite of a recruiter as someone else, but you just go hard on quantity because there are no restrictions, there are no regulations, there are no limits on when players can and can't sign, there are no limits on when they can and can't transfer. Because of that, it allows for lesser recruiters to write. And you've seen that as Georgia has gone from perennially number 1 in the recruiting rankings under Kirby Smart to more like 2, 3, 4. Now, 2, 3, 4 is plenty good enough to win national championships. Georgia is good enough to win national championships. They've had a couple disappointing years, first-round exits in the playoffs. But again, those were SEC championship, number 2 overall seed, college football playoff, had a great position, just didn't win the games. Sometimes you just don't win the games. Georgia's recruiting well enough right now. But the more that the recruiting system limits access, the more the elite recruiters are going to thrive in that system. And who's the best recruiter in college football? Is it Ryan Day? Come on. No. Is it Heartline? Come on. Be serious. Is it Lane Kiffin? I laugh. Kirby Smart was, and always will be the best recruiter in college football. He was the best recruiter in college football when Nick Saban was in his prime because he was doing all of Nick Saban's recruiting for him. So Kirby Smart is and always will be the best recruiter in college football. When more regulation comes into place and the recruiting windows are more limited, the better recruiters will have the advantage. You're going to go back to the day when you see Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, and then, I don't know, somebody else 3. It won't be Alabama because they got a guy from South Dakota is their coach. But you're going to go back to the day when it'll be Oregon 3 because Dan Lanning. So you're going to go back to just this every year. This is who you're going to get. You're going to get the best recruiters are getting the best players. And, guys like Lane Kiffin are still going to focus on the transfer portal, and they're still going to do great in the transfer portal, and they're still going to have some success in that realm. But again, even with the transfer portal, the more limited the window is, the more Kirby's going to be able to thrive in that environment. So change is coming to college football. I'm not saying it's going to happen immediately or that it's going to be this year or that it's going to be soon. I don't know. But change is coming. And when it does, Georgia is set up for success. So we'll come back in the third segment. I've got one more thing that I want to discuss, but first, these. And these are TurboTax. Tax season does not have to take over your life. Listen, we know taxes are the worst. We know that nobody enjoys doing them, but tax season does not have to be your worst, the worst, because with TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without stress or guesswork. Don't spend hours trying to figure out your own forms. You can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want to just talk to a chat AI bot online. That's fine. You can connect with an actual human being in person, bring them your documents, and they'll do your taxes right there in front of you. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms, and and work to get you every single deduction. Or you can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right on the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and it gives you real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling your taxes. For a limited time, if you have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert, you can get that done for just $150 all in, $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. That's turbotax.com/local. All right, guys. Maybe you've noticed Clint's not here. It's the third segment. It's just us now. We have to talk about the basketball game last night. It wasn't good. It, in fact, was really bad. Like, probably about as bad as it could have been. Jeremiah Wilkinson's absence did make a huge difference. And Georgia was dominated. Basically, in every phase of the game, Georgia was dominated. It really wasn't that close. They played better in the second half than they did in the first half. But I mean, I'll summarize this game with a couple of stats. What did we say that we needed to have happen for Georgia to be competitive in this game? We said they needed to shoot the ball well from three. They shot 40% from three the other night against LSU, and that was great. Against Florida at home in the Steg, back down to 27.6% from three, 8 of 29 from three-point range. I'm here to tell you, you can't beat the best team in the SEC shooting 8 of 29 from three. You can't shoot sub 30% from 3, this Georgia team won't be competitive. They just can't do it. Like, I I need better from this Georgia team, right? Like, I need, um, I need I can't have Marcus Millender shoot 1 of 7 from 3, right? Like, I just I can't have Blue Kane shoot 3 of 7 from 3. Those 2 guys those 2 guys put up 14 threes and hit 4 of them. Like, Georgia's gotta shoot better if they're gonna win. And then the other thing that we said Georgia needed to do is that the front court needed to hold their own, and they needed to compete on the glass. They got out-rebounded in this game 41-31. Um, they actually did okay on the offensive glass, but they they could not like, they got destroyed by Florida's bigs. Santos Surreal was a non-factor in this game. He, 18 minutes, 10 points, that's fine, but 3 fouls, 2 rebounds? I'm sorry, 2 rebounds in the game? I just we needed we needed 2 things from this Georgia team, and we didn't get either of them. The half court offense was not there. Like, Georgia did not look solid in the half court. They had 12 turnovers and 8 assists. Like, that right there, even if you didn't watch the game, which I wish that you had, but the half court execution just wasn't there all night. And those numbers really give you the best feel for the ball was stagnant. It wasn't moving. We weren't hitting shots, but also we were turning it over way too much, and we weren't getting good looks because the ball wasn't moving crisply around. Just the half court offense was bad. We got beat up on the inside. We didn't hit outside shots. We didn't play well in the half court. It was a really disappointing performance. This is now 3 in a row at home that Georgia. It's not great. It doesn't really hurt Georgia's tournament resume at all. Losing to a top 15 team doesn't hurt your resume. That's not what this is about. What this is about is this Georgia team proving yet again that they are crazy inconsistent. That they lack that drive to bring it every single night. There are just and I don't know if it's a talent issue. I don't know if it's a confidence issue. I don't know what it is, but it's like this Georgia team sometimes just comes out and gets punched in the mouth, and then that's it. Like, that's it. This game was over, I mean, midway through the first half. It This game was over. You could tell. You just watched the game, and you knew that this thing was won very early in the season. And so, it's not a good look for Georgia. It is, it's another really tough loss. And so now Georgia goes on the road on Saturday to Oklahoma, a game that they really need to win. And you hate saying that you need to win road games in the SEC. That's a tough proposition. But you got Oklahoma on the road, and then next Tuesday, you got Kentucky on the road. And then Texas at home, Vanderbilt on the road. That's going to be a really tough game. South Carolina at home. That won't help the resume at all, unfortunately. Alabama at home and Mississippi State on the road. This Georgia team's going to have to win a handful of these games if they're going to continue to lock in that spot in the tournament. Again, this season is all about validating the Mike White experience, like the Mike White coaching tenure. For Georgia to make back-to-back NCAA tournaments is insane. So we are there now. We are in the tournament now. But we have got to finish strong. We've got to find some kind of rhythm offensively. And we can't score 66 points in SEC play and beat anybody. I'm talking about anybody. 66 points at home. I know Florida's a good defensive team, but they're not that good. That's not acceptable. Georgia's got to find it offensively. Georgia's got to get some continuity. Georgia's got to find some guys that can put the ball in the basket. I know Wilkinson was out. Again, he would not have made 20 points of difference in this game, I can promise you. He would not have made 12 percentage points from the three-point line difference in this game. Georgia's got to figure it out. It starts on the road at Oklahoma this weekend. Clint and I will be back tomorrow with more on this football team, on the offseason, more on the college football landscape and all of that. Hope you guys will join us, and we will see you guys then.